Welcome to Phone Booth Fighting, everybody, from the Bent Pixel Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey, I'm Frank Mir.
I am Richard Hunter, and today our guest in studio is professional wrestler Austin Aries. Good to see you, man.
What's going on, gentlemen?
Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk a lot about pro wrestling and being a vegan, because Austin is both. I'm one of those. Austin is both of them. Right. I'll let you figure out which one as the conversation goes. You've probably already decided. But let's do a little business, Frank, before we get into our discussion. First and foremost, lowtnation.com. We tell our listeners to log on to lowtnation.com, dial up the phone number. It is absolutely free, and find out if you are a candidate for testosterone therapy. Now, when we started this, I always say I had no idea how many of our Phone Booth Fighting listeners were going to be clients. Turns out quite a few. If you're getting a little older, if you don't have quite the get up and go you used to, then lowtnation.com is for you. First of all, the company's run by a couple of good Phone Booth Fighting listeners, just like yourself. And if you dial up the phone number, you're sure to get Brandon or Dr. Weeks on the phone. And they start the process. Now, on that process, Frank, maybe you can explain a little bit what happens. I dial up the phone number, and then what?
Well, they do a really quick consultation on air with you or on the phone. Find out if maybe you're somebody who would be a candidate for hormone replacement therapy. If that's the case, if they're starting to feel some of the signs are there, then they'll go ahead and send you and direct you and make an appointment for you for a blood withdrawal. Then once they take the blood, they have their doctors look at it and be able to really give you a quick assessment on what's required. And let's face it, if your hormones aren't, if they're in the gutter because you've had concussions when you were younger, age, train too hard, stresses of life, you can be in the gym all you want. You're really not going to see any results. You're going to feel, fatigue. You're going to have all the symptoms of just being an old man way before your time. So they can get you back on track and motivated and have a much improved quality of life.
All that and convenience delivered right to your door. That phone call is going to put you in touch with a lab in your area for the initial blood work. After that, it's front door delivery, so you don't even have to leave your house to start feeling the effects. Log on to lowtnation.com today. Give them a call, do the free phone consultation, and tell them Phone Booth Fighting sent you. Also, Frank, let's give some love to Freshly.com, the meal prep site that feeds us and can feed you. And first things first, since we have Austin here, I always point this out myself as a fellow vegan, they have vegan options, and that's very important. If you are a vegan, if you're a vegetarian, or you're a good old-fashioned carnivore, they cover it all. You do the keto diet or whatever it is, paleo, all that stuff is compatible with different menu options at Freshly.com. Here's how it works. You go to the website, you select a meal plan. Those meals are delivered directly to your door. Always fresh, never frozen, all natural ingredients. You can see the list of banned ingredients, the things they don't use, the stuff that's bad for you. And then you can find out the good stuff that they do use. And they have a fantastic offer right now for Phone Booth Fighting listeners. If you use the promo code PhoneBooth, that's promo code PhoneBooth, you're going to get 6 meals for $39. That's going to save you $20 off the order, and the offer is so good, it works twice. So you'll eat those 6 meals. You'll want 6 more. Guess what? Go to Freshly.com. You can do it all over again for the same savings. And, Frank, as we get closer and closer to that day in April where a big, scary Russian is going to fight you, we don't have time to be thinking about cooking. We got to worry about fighting, and that's where Freshly comes in.
Yeah, absolutely, and not only on top of that, just if you're preparing for a fight, but it just seems like the way of life it is. That's the reason why fast food is so popular right now, because it's not that people don't want to have a healthy meal. It's just time is of such a scarcity nowadays. You come home from work, your kids have school, they have homework, different events you're trying to do and put together. To sit down and cook a meal is just, is a commodity or a luxury that a lot of Americans we just don't have nowadays. So instead of running through the drive-thru, which takes 4 or 5 minutes, you can grab one of these meals, throw it in the microwave. 2 or 3 minutes later, you have a much healthier, balanced, and more conscious about your health meal.
Go to Freshly.com and enter the promo code PhoneBooth to start saving. All right, let's get it going. Austin Aries, as I said, is our guest in studio. You know him from WWE. You know him from Ring of Honor. You know him from TNA Wrestling, which is now Impact Wrestling, which is now the new home of Austin Aries, right?
One of them, one of many homes.
Yeah.
Really, truly a free agent right now, just traveling the world and wrestling wherever my heart's content.
To do a kind of an MMA analogy to that, Impact offers a situation where you can work for them. It's the big companies, so obviously you probably prioritize them and things like that. But as you said, they allow you to go work other places as well, right?
Yeah, they're really trying to change over, their mindset, their philosophy, their playbook, so to speak, of what the company is going to be run. And one of these things is, they want guys to be able to come in there, have it be a mutually beneficial relationship. Guys can come in there, make their name for themselves, and then take their name and any of their intellectual properties with them. And right now they're just trying to bring talent in, and with my situation, not really looking to be locked down anywhere specifically or anywhere that's going to take away other options for me. We have an agreement in place for a certain number of dates, to a certain amount of time, but really no restrictions on what I can do. So I think that's really the way it's going. I think that right now there's a really vibrant wrestling scene that if the companies that want to work together can provide a nice platform for guys that don't want to be in the corporate wrestling world to make a good living for themselves.
What do you mean by that, by corporate wrestling world versus?
WWE it's a corporate entity.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I mean they're the biggest name. They're the
literally a publicly traded company.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a very corporate mentality, very corporate structure. They own you.
And so then they don't look to go ahead and allow guys to work and take their name with them. They're looking to almost kind of lock you down. And if they don't have work for you, if you're injured, you can't go somewhere else.
Correct.
And if you did go somewhere else, you're going as a different name,
You're not going anywhere else.
You're not.
Yeah, and if you leave there, more times than not, they retain all the rights to anything that you used while you were there.
So including your name sometimes, right? Like that can be a problem,
right.
Is if you go over there and you work under your name, when you try to leave, a lot of times another organization is going to make you be some other name.
No
right.
kidding.
Yeah.
So I was one of the lucky ones because I had forged a 15+ year career before I went there, that my name had enough value that when I went there I was able to keep my name. Because in my situation, my age, and with the name value I had, it made more sense for them to use my name than to try to recreate me as somebody else.
Yeah, but a young guy.
But a young guy coming in there,
he's desperate to get in there, so he's going to sign away his rights to everything.
I'd say that's about 90% of the guys that are in there. They're going to be created by that place, and that place will retain all that creation. So outside of that mentality, I think that right now you're seeing companies realizing that. They have this huge bubble, and it dwarfs any other bubble of professional wrestling, but there's this opportunity to create another big bubble of a bunch of smaller bubbles that are willing to stick together and almost create, almost the territories in a sense, but in this kind of new age. Because right now with all the different social platforms and streaming options, you don't need television to get your product out there.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was thinking even just going back to even since Impact Wrestling has been around, started out as TNA Wrestling, I remember you used to really have to try to hunt that down to see it. It was like it was on pay-per-view, but not all pay-per-view platforms, and you really had to, and it's a great point. I mean, now with streaming and apps and things like that, and also online networks like Fight TV. Well, Frank he does color commentary for ACB, which also airs Ring of Honor.
Okay.
So I mean, I was just thinking about that because like I go on Fight TV to watch Frank do color commentary for ACB, and when I went over there, I was like, oh my gosh, look, Ring of Honor's on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's much easier to find.
Yeah, Twitch right now is a big thing. They're grabbing a lot of programming on that. Even Facebook Live. When I wrestled in Australia a couple months back, well, actually it was November now. I'm going back in March. They didn't have anything set up as far as streaming. Yeah. But they recorded it and put it on a Facebook Live. So they were able to put it out that way. So what it's done. When I left WWE, I didn't really know it was on the other side. And I was really surprised to see how much opportunity was there, the kind of money that was coming with those opportunities, and really it was so much international stuff, a lot more than ever before. And I think because really your technology's shrunk and everything, so now guys can get their name out there so much quicker than for me. We had to make VHS tapes and hand it to a guy to try to hand to a promoter and try to
carry your demo.
Yeah, it was about a bunch of networking, right? And it took time to kind of get your name out from a regional, local, national, international level. For me, it took years. Now these guys can literally have a match and have it up on their their YouTube 20 minutes after they're done, and you can make a name so much quicker.
We're going to talk a lot of wrestling. We're also going to talk some plant-based diets, and that's where Austin's book, Food Fight, comes in. Austin is a vegan, and that's how Austin and I met each other. Last year, fall, maybe the end of summer, we met at, you were at Veg Fest here in Las Vegas.
October, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
With your book. It was all vegan fare that Jennifer and I went out and enjoyed. I didn't even know you were going to be there. I just saw you over there at the table with your books, and we started talking. And I'll tell you something pretty cool. Of course, Frank knows all about. My girlfriend and I are vegan, but I've got a real advantage because my girlfriend is just a gourmet vegan cook. So I eat good, as they say.
Yeah.
And Frank's had it. He knows how good it is. But the interesting thing is, my girlfriend's mom, who is anything but a vegan. I mean, just Southern raised, bacon, grease, fried food, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't know anything about being a vegan, but loves wrestling. She is a genuine wrestling fan. And so when we saw this, and Austin and I were talking, I said, we ought to get another copy for your mom for Christmas. So we did. Not only has she read the book, she's not full vegan yet, but she's eating vegan. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
She's trying stuff. She's cleaning up her diet. And for anybody, and I won't get too preachy or anything, but I always like to say, listen, even if you're not going to just adopt the whole thing, even if you just want to say, you know what, a couple of times a week, how about we eat plant-based? How about we eat healthy?
You got Jen doing that now.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't need to feel bad about treating your body better, is what I'm saying. And so she's doing that now, and I guess I just want to say thanks for that, because
that's awesome.
It was a very unique bridge that you have there, because you can reach people.
I confuse people because they go, well, you look too small to be a professional wrestler, but you're too big to be a vegan. So I kind of screw with their mind there. And actually, I like to use the term plant-based diet, right? Because I realize that vegan has a stigma attached to it, and it's kind of an all or nothing proposition. And then, the people who are more ethical vegans, they're going to not just talk about the food they eat, but also the products they use. So I like using the term plant-based diet because anybody can implement more of a plant-based diet. Mm-hmm. Vegan is, again, they don't want to slap that label on them. I don't blame them. Again, I stopped eating meat 17 years ago. I didn't cut the dairy and the eggs out until about 6.5 years. So for me, it was a long journey. And I feel like as I'm getting my message out there, I want to be inclusive. I want to give people a chance to succeed, not put them in a position to fail. So if I, talk about, hey, start with Meatless Mondays, that's one day a week you can give up the meat. You got to give yourself the information, the tools, and the things you're going to eat to replace the things you're used to eating. So, and stories like that, that's the stuff that, again, people can come up and go, oh, I remember this match he had with, AJ Styles or, Jeff Hardy, and it was so great. And that's cool. But changing lives, people coming up. Again, we did a kind of like a meetup. It was called Hummus, right? Yeah, Hummus.
Oh, yeah.
Delicious food, right? We're celebrating Veganuary here in Vegas. And so a lady came in with her husband and her kid, and she bought my book back 8 months ago, and she's lost over 40 pounds. She's already off a couple of her medications. Her son and husband are now eating it. I had a guy up at Veg Fest come up, said he lost 220 pounds since he went vegan some years back, just because he was a fan of mine and Impact. So, it's that's a cool use of a platform and a voice for me, to be able to help change people's lives and really bring something worthwhile.
Well, and from the professional athlete standpoint, Frank, there are, first of all, MMA. I mean, there are a surprising number of vegans in MMA. And they're some of the ones that are always in the best shape, like the Diaz brothers, for example. You never see the Diaz brothers out of shape for a fight. Mac Danzig is another. Jake Shields is another. So I would assume that you get this question a lot because Frank and I have talked about this too. That people will always go to that old cliche, right, Frank? Of you can't not eat meat because you're not going to get any protein, right?
Yeah, and that's actually what's important about having the guys like Austin talking about it, because I think even nowadays when we bring it up, that's the first thing everybody thinks of. Like, well, if you're just some guy who goes to the office, and punches a clock, you can be a vegan.
Sure,
but
yeah.
if you're going to be an athlete, you can't. And that's why my retort, even though I'm not a vegan, I was like, well, I would do it, but it takes a lot of planning. It's not easy. But there's so many alternatives out there for protein intake that, like, I was like, well, come on. I mean, if we lived out in the jungle, being a vegan might be a little bit more difficult, but as far as with all the variety of things that you have access to in our culture, it's really not that much. You're not going to be deprived as much as people say.
Right. And I've also, as I've researched more and read more, I believe that this mindset that we need these copious amounts of protein has been a little overblown. And you talk about the guy punching the clock. That guy's eating probably 4 or 5 times the amount of protein a day that he needs. Because
I've never seen anybody go to the hospital because they were protein
deficiency. It hasn't happened.
Yeah, that's what I thought about. Like, you can have certain vitamins deficient, be dehydrated, but I've never seen anybody hospitalized because of protein deficiency.
No. And the other thing is, all protein in its original source comes from plants. Even the animals that you're eating, they got their protein from plants.
Right.
So really, and when your body breaks down amino acid, breaks down proteins into amino acids, uses those amino acids to rebuild your muscle, it doesn't know the difference between a chicken amino acid or a soy amino acid. It's an amino acid. So, people ask where to get your protein, and it's just from food. And it's just being mindful of the things you're eating, and there's plenty of protein sources to be had, and of course they make supplements if you need to supplement it with protein powders and things like that. But it's literally all the old mantras and the old questions and the roadblocks that people would put up, whether it's the protein, it's inconvenient, it's too expensive, like those have all been debunked now, and especially now more than ever. It's becoming mainstream. You're seeing a lot more celebrities and high-level athletes that are jumping on the bandwagon, and with that, the corporations they're going to go where the money is, and they're seeing where the trend is. So it's becoming easier and easier to find, and good quality plant-based food.
I think also for athletes who need to make weight, one of the first things I noticed after I became vegan was weight consistency. My weight not fluctuating. And it helps if you exercise regularly and things like that, for sure. But when you think about a fighter that needs to make weight, for example, knowing that even in the off time, your weight isn't going to wildly fluctuate is a nice thing to know once training camp starts. And I think certain vegan athletes appreciate that. Are there other vegan wrestlers that people would know?
I mean, there's been Daniel Bryan is probably one, and I don't know that he's 100%, but I know for the most part he is. I mean, there's a lot more now. Maybe not ones that people would know, but it seems like the next generation that are coming up are starting to latch onto it to some degree. And again, it's not even I always say, like, listen, I live in at this extreme. 100% of the time, 0% animal products, and that is extreme. People say that's a really extreme way to live. But then I always counter with, I always ask people what's the last meal they had that didn't have meat, dairy, or eggs. And I usually get a bunch of blank stares because we're indoctrinated to live in this other extreme where every meal has to have one of those components. So, I tell people it's not about coming all the way to my extreme on this end, but getting off the other extreme and skewing somewhere towards the middle. And you're seeing more and more people do it. I mean, even just as simple as replacing their whey protein powders with plant-based protein powders and seeing, I don't feel bloated, I don't feel heavy,
Well, and Frank, that's the first thing I told him about it, and he can tell you a good story. But the first thing I started noticing was when I was eating vegan versions of what you would consider comfort food, pizza, burgers, things like that. That the first thing was after I ate them, I didn't feel like just super heavy.
Yeah.
Now Frank and I and our regular Phone Booth Fighting listeners are know where I'm going with this, but it's apropos because not only do we have Austin in studio, but Frank and I are headed to L.A. For the weekend for Bellator. And Frank got in the car, picked him up, and the first question he had for me was, hey, did you see how far the hotel is from Doomie's?
Oh boy!
Do you know Doomie's?
You know the secret menu at Doomie's?
Oh yeah, we ordered the Big Mac with animal
style fries every
time we're in there.
The double Big Mac, bacon Big Mac.
I'm quite familiar with that.
Yes.
This thing, Frank, go ahead. Tell our people who've heard it before. We'll stick with it, I'm sure. But tell Austin the experience of the first Big Mac at Doomie's.
Well, I ordered one with the fries and everything. And
First of all, you didn't know where we were going.
No,
I mean,
no.
I was just, hey, I'm going to take you this place, right?
And I'm open-minded to everything.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, a vegan restaurant. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go, As long as food's good, right? So we go in there and we look around. The girl goes, well, it's not on the menu, but we have a Big Mac. I'm like, cool. So I ordered the Big Mac. first bite into it, I'm like, holy shit! Not only is this like unbelievably a good hamburger, but like, I mean, even amongst hamburgers, this might be my favorite hamburger I've ever had. And it's not even a real hamburger. Holy shit, you know? So I finished eating it, and I'm like, well, I gotta have another. So I asked the lady, I'm like, hey, can I get another one? She goes, to go? I'm like, no, for here.
They have a couch in there that Frank is fond of kind of spreading out on.
Sure.
And it's funny.
Because I had two Big Macs.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
It's funny. We've given Doomies so much free publicity on this podcast that our listeners are now going to Doomies wearing their phone booth fighting T-shirts, ordering the Big Mac with the animal stuffed fries, and Instagramming the whole thing.
That's
just
awesome.
living the experience. But obviously, I don't have to tell you. You've been there.
One of my favorite spots when I want to eat like an asshole.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Is there anything besides a Big Mac we should be getting? Because you talked about the secret menu, but
that was on the secret menu. I got they had like a double bacon like Big Mac.
Yeah, that's when I got two of them.
Yeah. And this one they gave me.
No. Most humans could only eat one.
Yeah,
I ate two of them.
Yeah.
But then that's why I had to get up from my chair. I was sweating and laid down on the couch. I'm like, I think I made a mistake.
That's heavyweight eating. Well,
that's a good spot.
I already mapped it out from the hotel to the restaurant, so we'll be good.
I'll tell you another spot that's close to the airport. It's called Sage Vegan Bistro. Check that out. Try the buffalo cauliflower is one of the best, and they got all sorts of stuff there. They got soft serve and pizzas and all sorts of good stuff. So that's about 10 minutes from the airport. I used to Culver City area.
And that's where we're going to be because the fight's at the Forum. So we're going to be over in that area. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
All right, now we
Check
got another
that one
place. All right, the book is called Food Fight: My Plant-Powered Journey from the Bingo Halls to the Big Time by our guest Austin Aries. Now back to wrestling, and maybe this is a good segue because I really enjoyed the book, and one of the quotes that stuck out to me in it was, I remember you said something along the lines of, if it wasn't for wrestling, I don't know that I would have ever stopped eating animals. Something to that effect. What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I'll go back and read the book. No.
What was it about wrestling? Because I think a lot of people would assume wrestling is the kind of thing that would...
So I think it came down to this. When I started training to be a wrestler, I was coming out, a failed experiment of college, where... my success in college was I won Bar Olympics, the makeout contest, and a couple of karaoke contests. So I hit like the triple crown of college, But, so when I left there, again, some of my favorite meals in college were, Domino's pizza late at night with ranch dressing, go in the cafeteria and get the grilled cheese and ladle some of their chili over it. Hot ham and cheese at Arby's, so that was my diet. So, coming out of college, trying to figure out what I want to do with myself, health wasn't exactly on the top of the list of important things I was thinking about. So I think what I meant by that is that if it wasn't for me starting my journey of pro wrestling, I don't know that I ever would have said, okay, I need to take my fitness and my condition and put it at the top of my priority list. I had to get a gym membership first and foremost. I'm not a big guy to begin with, but I knew I had to look the part. So I was probably 165 pounds of bad weight, when I started out. And, to get up to the 185 or 190 that I'll sit at, it took work. But I had to learn about food, and that was the other part. I had to figure out, and when I first started conventional wisdom, well, you need meat for protein. So, at that point, I was already kind of skewing off of red meat and pork just from some conversations I had, some research I'd done. So I was really in the, just stick with the chicken breast. And, being extremely poor and like living on my buddy's couch at the time, you go buy the cheapest, biggest bag of frozen chicken breast, which of course, just the highest quality you can find. And I was just cooking them up one day, and all these little seeds that had been planted they kind of sprouted at once, and I just said, man, this is really disgusting, and I think I'm over this. And, from that day forward, I had to figure out how to eat. If I'm not going to eat these things, then what am I going to eat? And so, but yeah, if I hadn't started wrestling, I don't know that I ever would have, had to put that at the top of the priority list and learn all these things that I have.
Now, even in, go ahead, Frank.
Well, I was say now, if you are a young guy, that doesn't have maybe access financially to, that's not going to be an option. What are some of your go-to vegan, meals? Like all right, you're a poor college kid and you don't want to have to run to McDonald's.
Sure.
What could you?
Well, and I would say like what's expensive is eating conveniently, as you were talking about before, right? Like, so, beans and rice are really cheap. If you buy dried beans and dried rice and you make it yourself, you're going to get 10 times the value than if you buy the can that you just open up, or the 90-second pouch you put in the microwave. But so it's, we have limited resources, our time, our money, and our energy. So if we don't want to spend one of those, we got to spend the other one. If you don't want to spend your time or your energy, you're going to spend your money. If you don't want to spend the money, then spend your time and your energy. But you can't not spend any of them and expect to make a difference. So I think lentils is another thing that are very versatile, high in protein, complex carbohydrates, and they're really, again, you can do a number of things with them, and they do make good pre-packaged, pre-cooked lentils. You can find them at, I think, like Super Target is where I usually get mine. For $2.50, $3, it's got 42 grams of protein, about 80 carbohydrates.
Jennifer makes a meatloaf.
You can eat it anywhere.
Jennifer will make a meatloaf with lentils.
Sure. That's what you brought over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly. Thanksgiving, and we're slicing off that meatloaf for a week. So I always find if anything ever strikes us as expensive, it's usually when we go out to eat.
Of course.
And it's like anything else. But here's another good thing about being vegan is a lot of times if you go to a vegan restaurant, there's no Applebee's of vegan restaurants. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Applebee's will jump on as a sponsor anytime soon. Yeah. So I can just go ahead and say it. But what I mean is like just kind of that generic, bland kind of thing. It's a lot of kind of high-end specialty type eating, so you're going to get what you pay for. But when we cook at home, I find whether it's like a lentil meatloaf we're making, or tempeh, or seitan, like all these meat substitutes. She'll make tempeh bacon. That's good for a week. Yep. It's like anything else. She makes a big lasagna. We're good on that for a few days. I'm taking that for lunch with me. So, I don't think it has to even necessarily be expensive.
It doesn't. And the big thing I've been jumping on now is they're making like lentil pastas,
right?
And chickpea pastas. So now all of a sudden, I made not that long ago, I made a cashew cheese, like mac and cheese with lentil, like a lentil mac and cheese with cashew cheese. And I dished out my serving in the bowl, and I did the calculations with like 32 grams of protein for a bowl of mac and cheese.
Yeah.
So go find that in your Kraft mac and cheese. Good luck.
Yeah, you got it from the cashews, right? Yeah,
cashews totally, and the lentil.
Yeah,
the lentil pastas, double the protein than your normal pasta would be. It was gluten-free.
Yeah.
And so, the whole expensive argument just doesn't fly, because, a lot of the people that say this to me, I've opened up their cabinets and they've got 5 boxes of children's cereal, which give you absolutely zero nutritional value. So there's $30 that you just kind of burn for nothing. So, you got to break down your foods and your staples and your luxury items. And, I always say I like pickles, but I won't buy normal pickles because they put yellow number 5 and there's high fructose in there and there's these things in there I just won't eat. So, but I also don't want to spend $5 or $6 on a jar of pickles. I can't always justify that, right? So I'll forgo it until they go on sale. And when it's, buy 2 for 1 or whatever, I'll grab a couple of them. But that's where you kind of rob Peter, pay Paul a little bit, and kind of make your decisions to make your money stretch if you need to, and it doesn't have to be expensive. But of course, and I always say, like, cancer is really expensive.
Yes.
So where do you want to spend your money?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. The book, Food Fight, is also not just about plant-based diets. There's some good wrestling stories in there as well. And I have to tell you, I particularly enjoyed the part of the book where you were talking about how you first got exposed to wrestling, because it reminded me of the way I was exposed to it as a child, which was the old territory system. Yeah. Now, I'm originally from Dallas, so I grew up in the era of the Von Erichs and world-class championship wrestling. And my grandfather, who did not enjoy wrestling, but he pretended like he did. To his credit, rest his soul, would come home every month or so, and he would have tickets, and we'd go down and watch wrestling. And I always tell people that, at the same time that the Von Erichs were wrestling, the Dallas Cowboys were winning Super Bowls with Roger Staubach and Tony Dorsett and these guys. But if you were opening up a car dealership, you would have to think long and hard about who would draw more people in, Roger Staubach or the Von Erichs, if you wanted to. It was that popular.
It really was.
And the WWE was not worldwide at that point. They were territory as well.
Yeah. And
then I would go visit my grandparents in Mississippi on summers, and that's where I would see the old NWA, the old Georgia stuff. So I kind of wanted to ask you about that, because I think, you can see all this stuff now. The WWE's bought all those catalogs. So you can go on their app, which is like their Fight Pass, and watch these old things. And probably to a kid, they'd be like, what is this? But
Right,
to
right.
me, it turns me into a kid all over again
Sure.
when I watch it. But there was something classic about it. I mean, there's something where it's like watching old sitcoms or something, like just a style and sometimes a grit and an independence that just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and that was that's the wrestling that grabbed me. I was probably about 4 years old. It was the AWA. I grew up in just outside of Milwaukee, so that was kind of the Midwest promotion. Vern Gagne ran, and really, if you look back, before WWE went kind of nationwide, they poached a lot of their talent from AWA. They went and grabbed Bobby Heenan, Gene Okerlund, Hulk Hogan, Jesse Ventura. I mean, they went and Vince went and raided all these territories and to get his talent. But so AWA was the stuff I grew up on, World Class Championship Wrestling, the NWA, the Crockett stuff, wrestling,
right?
And it was dirty and dingy, and it had a realism to it that we're not, that now sports entertainment, which is kind of the new phrase that's been coined, doesn't quite capture, right? And that's why I think right now what you're seeing is, listen, sports entertainment is this huge entity, and what they do better than anybody else in the world, and they always will. But I'm sensing that there's a new group and a new generation of fans who want to see pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And they want that thing with a little bit of more of an edge, a little dirtier, a little, as you were kind of, alluding to. And so that's why, again, I see that, variety is the spice of life. So, you're going to get that up there, and it's going to be the glitz and the glamour and the, the pyrotechnics and all that. And then you can have pro wrestling, which is kind of a throwback to that stuff that we grew up watching, that old is new again.
What it reminds me of, to draw an analogy, because I'm a big music guy too. You probably didn't guess that.
Yeah.
But it's like the difference between seeing like a big, huge stadium show
Right.
and going to a little club and seeing like a cool rockin' band, and that's what some of the the outside the WWE wrestling promotions remind me of now. Like a couple of weeks ago when Chris Jericho did the Kenny Omega match over in New Japan. Like,
right.
I got that on Access TV. I was excited to see it. You know what I mean? I was like, I made an appointment to watch it. I was like,
Sure.
it's cool and it feels different. And even though over there, of course, it's in a big stadium, but we have Ring of Honor coming here for their big annual show at Sam's Town, which is where we do real MMA.
Right.
And you just see it in a little small place like that, and it's like a throwback feeling. Reminds me of being a kid again.
And the music analogy too, it's a lot of your band's favorite albums are their first album.
Yeah, right,
the one that's raw, the one that hasn't been touched by the record label and overproduced. So it can that can kind of strip some of the emotion out of what we're doing, right? And so I think that that edgy kind of raw, pardon the pun, type of wrestling, I think is kind of making a resurgence.
Yeah. So what's we mentioned at the top of the show that you're going to be in Impact again, and the date is February 1st, I guess, where they air is that your first match that's going to be shown over there?
So they just did a new set of TV tapings with the kind of the new regime.
Yeah.
Again, they just went through a regime change and really trying to rebrand it. So all those episodes will start airing on Pop Television starting February 1st.
Yeah.
Leading up till April 22nd, which is going to be their pay-per-view renamed Redemption. So I believe it's going to be in Toronto. I'm not sure that's 100% verified yet, but so people can check it out and see kind of see some of the changes back to the 4-sided ring instead of for a while they had the 6-sided.
Mm-hmm.
They had the 6-sided ring, which I wasn't personally a fan of. Just wrestling in it was a little more difficult, but I also felt like, 6 sides is kind of synonymous with what you do, Frank, and so it just, for me, it didn't. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, so
yeah, right.
But I think there's a different energy there, and they're trying to do things the right way. And for me, right now as a free agent, I'm picking and choosing where I work carefully, and I only want to work for people and promotions that are trying to do things the right way. And that means not only giving the fans what they want, but taking care of the talent in the way that they deserve to be, showing them respect. Because really, at the end of the day, the talent should drive the bus. Without us, the rest of it's not necessary.
Who are some of the guys over there that you're going to be working programs with right off the bat, do you think? I mean, I won't give anything away, but I mean, who are some of the top guys they have over there these days?
Well, some of the top guys, their champ was Eli Drake, and then, Alberto El Patron,
right?
Also known as Alberto Del Rio, other places.
That's a guy who's had an MMA fighter too.
Yep, he has. Johnny Impact, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, whatever his last name is, it's Johnny Impact over there. He's one of their top guys. And I think there's some guys, Bobby Lashley, I think he just finished up there.
Now, that's a fight Frank is interested in, right? Frank, you've been talking about you're looking to run into Bobby Lashley at some point over in Bellator.
I am. I think Bobby Lashley has a great record. He's a big, ferocious guy. I think that, on a billboard, he's very scary looking. So, and that helps put people in tickets as far as want to watch.
And you want to talk about, we started the show talking about being a free agent and working different promotions. Bobby's in a situation where he's working in Impact, but he's also working in Frank's promotion over in Bellator. So, I mean, he's actually, at this point, it's kind of like being a two-sport player.
Yeah, and I think he actually just finished up with Impact, and there's some rumors he could be heading back to WWE, so we'll see if that happens. I'm not sure.
I don't know if they would allow that or not. Although
they did with Brock. Obviously, Brock had his fight. When he was there.
Yeah, we talk. People, our listeners, all the time ask about a trilogy fight with Brock and Frank. I always tell Frank, I said, honestly, the last time I saw Brock, he had all he could handle with the Undertaker, and he's in his 50s. So this is looking promising.
I don't know. Undertaker's a big motherfucker. So he might give a lot of people a hard time.
Right? Yeah, no kidding.
Well, that's excellent that you're going to be back on over there. As far as we were talking about life on the road and stuff like that. To me, that's always another aspect of pro wrestling that fascinates me. Even in the WWE, which is flights a lot of places and catering backstage and all that kind of stuff. I'm guessing that's not the easiest place to be a vegan either. I mean, were you packing food with you a lot of times?
I always pack food with me.
Yeah,
right. I think I'm always prepared because again, that's my decision. So I don't like to be a hassle to other people, so I always make sure that I got something no matter what. But they were really good because again, I'm not the only person who has some dietary restrictions, so they're pretty good at trying to have something for everybody. But part of the fun for me in the travels is every town I go to is when I get in there is to seek out some of these more plant-based cafes or restaurants. Because again, as you talked about earlier, most guys are going to get in town, they're going to find the Waffle House or the Applebee's, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. For me, it's cool finding all these little small spots that maybe you would never, walk into, but you got to seek them out. And just had, met cool people, had great conversations, ate some really delicious food. So that's, again, whenever I'm traveling, if you look on my Instagram, at Austin Aries, I've got my middle name stuffed in there. But you'll see a lot of it, most of what I post is food, right? That's kind of what I enjoy doing when I'm out and about traveling, whether it's over here or internationally. I was just in Australia for about 10 days and didn't realize what a thriving plant-based scene they have over there.
Oh, yeah.
Sydney and Melbourne, just amazing. So and also kind of talking about how it's really on the uptick and on the upswing. Go to some of these smaller towns that you wouldn't expect that they would have, these type of options, and you're finding them in places that maybe 5 or 10 years ago you wouldn't have any luck.
What was that other place we went to in L.A., Frank? Was it Cafe Soul? Remember the name of that place?
They had the really good macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, it's where we saw Jeff Garland from Curb Your Enthusiasm there. I can't remember what that place was in L.A. That was so good we tried to go back the next day, I remember.
We did.
Yeah,
there's one called Cafe Gratitude.
Oh, I've been there.
That one, yeah,
that's good too. Yeah, that's good too. There's Travis Barker's place is there.
You haven't taken me there yet, though.
No, this is the fun part about I also like being the guy. Again like music. It's like turning your friend on to some band you've discovered, and you get to see them enjoy it for the first time and everything.
Well, and even more fulfilling because it's something good for them.
Exactly.
And so that's the cool part. And again, whether it's been fans of mine or friends or family that have somehow touched in some way to kind of help change their mindset of what they eat, that's pretty rewarding.
I want to ask you, before we let you go, there's one more wrestling question I wanted to ask you, just because reading the book, again, like I said, when I read about your path to becoming a wrestling fan and then, of course, becoming a pro wrestler, the fandom part certainly reminded me of myself as a kid. And for a time, I've had a very weird life. Not particularly successful, but I've failed at a lot of different interesting aspects of professional life. And one of the things I did before I got into radio was I actually worked with an NWA promotion in Dallas, and as like doing TV and commentating, things like that. But behind the scenes, I helped with the booking. And there were more than a couple of times probably, but guys that would come through that I remembered as kids. And they were, in my mind, larger than life.
Sure.
And some of the guys were still, they may have been past their prime, but they had the gear together and they were still in good shape, and, they could put on a hell of a show. Some of the guys had fallen on really, really hard times.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of really weird experiences where I had to talk to someone and explain to them, you're going to lose, it's going to go this way, something like that. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm an 8-year-old kid talking to this guy and sometimes you could sort of see the sadness in their face, like, okay, this is not talking out of school because we told this story on the air, but when we had Dallas Page on, he helped Jake Roberts famously come back from the brink of death. Basically.
I love Dallas too. I just spent 5 days with him in Atlanta. We did some DDPY, did some cooking show stuff there.
He's invited us out there to do yoga, and we got to do that.
I'd take him up on it.
Yeah, we will definitely do that. But I had told him when we had him on the show.
It's not yoga, it's DDPY.
That's right.
We're rebranding this here. It's like P90X.
Yeah.
I got you, Dallas.
I told him the story because I said, personally, I really appreciated what he did for Jake Roberts, because I had an experience, and it was probably the saddest thing I ever dealt with in pro wrestling, where Jake Roberts he was living in the Metroplex area for a while, Jake the Snake Roberts, and he actually called us and was hitting us up for a booking, and but he was in the throes of his deepest, darkest drug problems. Sure. And so I actually had to have a conversation with him where I said, we can't book you and advertise you because I can't be for sure you're going to be here. And so what I can do is I can book you for what we call a run-in, which was you're not you're not. What is Frank Mir doing here? He was not supposed to be here tonight. And you're swinging a chair, and that's how the announcer's playing it. So we booked him for a run-in. He pulled up behind the venue, and I walked out, and I remember I handed him $100 cash, and I said, you're worth so much more than this. And I said, this is all I can pay you because we had to know you were going to be here. And it's like I was saying everything but I'm sorry. Right. You know what I mean? And he was happy to have it. I mean, he was like, it was gratitude from him, but there was so much pain in that moment. I'm just so glad he's come back from that.
Sure.
But that being said, I guess my question to you is, have you had those moments along the way where as you were coming up, you were running into people that even if you didn't deal with them directly, maybe you just saw them in passing, but you're like, okay, if I'm not careful, this is what the other side of it can look like for some people.
Well, two things. I've met a couple of, and I'm not going to,
of course,
I won't, name them, but a couple of, again, superstars that I grew up watching that were everything, and you meet them, and they're, as they say, don't meet your heroes sometimes. So I've had some of those experiences. There was a point, even if you guys remember the movie The Wrestler came out with Mickey Rourke.
You've seen it, right, Frank?
And listen, it's it's been given its Hollywood little glean or whatever, but there is that side of it, and there are those guys that this is all they know, and once it's up, they don't know how to let go of it. The spotlight, they don't have any other skills, they don't have another job to rely on. So they're sitting at their conventions trying to make their $100 or $200 and to survive that way. I had a point before I went back to Impact Wrestling in 2011. I left Ring of Honor, and I was burnt out, and I felt like I was spinning my wheels, and the independent wrestling scene wasn't really healthy, and I didn't feel like I was getting back what I'd been putting in. And I remember after one show where I dealt with I've been working for this guy for almost 10 years, and I just said, hey, just make sure that at the end of the night my hotel situation's sorted out and my ride situation to the hotel sorted out. I don't want to be doing this chasing my tail thing after the show. And so we got to the end of the show, and I was really sick that day. Like, I slept all day till I had to go out there and perform, and then I just wasn't feeling good. So after the show I said, all right, what's the deal with my hotel? oh yeah, I'm gonna figure that out, and I just like son of a bitch. Like, I mean, if I can't get that level of respect after working for as long and as hard as I had for this guy, I remember flying home that day and said, you know what, like I think I'm done. I think I need to do something else right now because I don't want to be Randy the Ram. I don't want to be that guy in that story. And how long do you grind and push through before you realize, like, all right, maybe enough's enough? And, sometimes you have to do that. You got to take a step back to get that perspective. You're almost, can't see the forest through the trees, and you kind of take a step back and kind of regroup. And it was the best thing I did. I turned my attention elsewhere. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but you have to be willing to walk away from something. Right, and sometimes that's when you kind of break through.
Yeah. And
for me, it did. It really spurred on my next run with Impact Wrestling, which really everything from there has been nothing but success. So yeah, it's difficult. And I've done some of these conventions where I'll look to my left, I'll look to my right, and go, man, like I hope I'm never those guys. Like I hope that I have something else. And again, with this plant-based. With this book coming out and really my, starting to go out and speaking about plant-based diet and that lifestyle, I feel like that's my next transition in helping people change lives that way. And again, as an entertainer, I help people forget about their problems. Now I want to start helping people fix their problems, and it starts with food. So, that's where that's at. I got a question for you, Frank, because here's something that I keep pitching out there, and I want to know when we're going to go this road. Tag team MMA matches, right? Like
it's been done.
Has it been done?
Yeah, they're doing it. It just doesn't it's a little rough.
I would see like there'd be some serious strategy to where you don't want the guy to make the tag. You could have some of these super fights with different weight classes teaming up.
Yeah,
and you got to isolate, cut the octagon off.
I think it'd be super entertaining. I actually wish that we could figure it out. Because it would be cool to it adds a whole nother factor into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like where
it
it's
really
like,
would.
wow.
Yeah, that's interesting because right now, if you have a dominant ground position, you're trying to sweep arms to keep somebody from posting up. This would be the additional challenge of trying to keep them from tagging.
Keep them on your side of the octagon so they isolate them,
That's interesting. That's it. I
mean, we could even. I like that idea.
We could even take it further, like the partner who's out could be trying to distract the referee. There could be some funny business going on behind
the old brass knuckles behind the referee's back.
I have seen some competitions too where it's multiple people against multiple people.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they do that over like in Russia and stuff. Have you watched some of those competitions?
See, look real quick. See if any of that's on YouTube, Mikey. I'll bet we've seen some of that. Yeah. I think the problem is
the first time if there's 3-on-3.
Yeah.
Whoever that 3 loses first, and now it's 2 versus 3, that's pretty much the team that's going to win.
Well, that's true. I'll tell you where I've done that in jiu-jitsu class, actually. The school I trained at up in Reno, a guy would do that from time to time, and it would be like half the class against half the class, and that's exactly what would happen
that's actually why I carry a knife. When I first tried to train jiu-jitsu. No, all jokes aside. People watch too many fucking movies, and we think we have an idea what a group fight would look like. You're like, I watch fucking Chuck Norris.
Oh, okay. You don't mean in case we do that in jiu-jitsu class? You're saying, okay, I got you. Jesus, Frank, you're taking this real seriously.
No, but it was the first time I was 20 years old. And we were doing that multiple guys on each other. Well, I was the most dominant guy in the room. And all of a sudden, you grab 2 9-to-5 guys, and boom, they grab me at the same time. One guy's going for a choke, another guy's trying to break my foot, and you're sitting there fighting them off, and I'm like going, holy shit. 2 guys that by themselves wouldn't last 15 seconds with me. But together, we got an issue. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's when I opened up my eye. I'm like, fuck, man, if I got into a fight, here you go.
What do we have here? So this is...
Oh, man.
All right. It's in Poland, Mikey?
That's Russia versus Poland.
Russia versus Poland. It looked like it started out 5-on-5, maybe?
I'd be the guy hiding in the tires, letting everyone
Good
clear
move.
out.
Good move. Yeah. How many? You got like 3 referees in there?
Yeah, you see a lot of good stuff going on.
Got a guy that's working a guillotine over there, but...
Now, here's the part I'm curious about. The ones I saw before, they had headgear on.
Yeah.
So, but if one of these guys loses, does he get to jump up and now is it 2-on-1?
Yeah, do some double team moves, right?
Oh, yeah. I wonder if there's anything they're not allowing here. Are they allowing?
Like, how bad would that be if you're sitting
No,
there,
this is
you're
an MMA
in
fight,
the
man.
guard or whatever, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden some guy comes over and puts some heel hook on you.
Right,
You
right.
think you're good, but no, you're not.
Yeah.
Because we're really not seeing any 2-on-1 just yet in this clip. If you're watching this on our Phone Booth Fighting YouTube channel, you're seeing what we're looking at. It's called Team Fighting Championship. Okay. What do we?
See, now there is more than multiple guys. Because see how he's looking over his shoulder?
Yeah. He's worried about somebody coming up on him. Yeah, this guy's throwing strikes.
Okay, that's the referee stoppage. We're good. Now let's see what he goes and does.
Okay, final fight. You still have like 4 or 5 different fights going on at the same time in this ring, and like Austin said, there's random tires, stacks of tires set up. I guess those are in place of turnbuckles.
The ref hasn't stopped that one yet.
Yeah,
the guys
no.
just covered up, like, just please stop it.
Well, and they talk. I mean,
Isn't this the international sign of I'm done?
Yeah, right,
pretty
right.
much is because you have to intelligently be
Right.
defending yourself.
Now it looks like you're starting to have some guys gas out too. Oh Jesus! Yeah,
All
that's
right, let's see where this guy runs off to.
all right. Where'd he go?
Flying drop kick from behind. Where's it at?
Yeah,
Wow, they're letting this guy just get his ass whooped.
Yeah.
yeah. I think there's some state athletic commissions that would have some objection. Jesus, this guy's just stomping his head. That's like not even soccer kick. Like he was just
Yeah,
stomping.
2-on-1.
Oh, man.
Oh,
I love it.
oh my God.
Now, see, that's what I said because that was an eye-opening experience for me. I realized, oh man, if I walk in and go, buy some gas,
Yeah.
and 3 normal
Jeez.
dudes aren't dumb enough to line up on me one-on-one, if all
Yeah.
3 of them rush me at the same time, you better have some kind of weapon on you because the idea of actually fighting yourself out of that, it's like, guys, realistically,
Yeah.
I mean, but it's again strange because you watch so many movies. I remember, and you think that that's what's going to happen in real life. First time I shot something that a gun, and like, wow, it didn't knock me back. I mean, I thought that there was a huge impact. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, and you see now in videos people get shot with bullets. You're like, well, they fly back. We're like, no, they just fall down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm used to seeing John Wayne, hit him with a 44, and the guy does a backflip. It's like, nah, it doesn't work that way.
like that.
Yeah. The book is called Food Fight. It's by Austin Aries. Austin, we appreciate you coming in. Why were you in Vegas, by the way? Are you doing anything specific here or just hanging out?
Just kind of hanging out, kind of scoping it out.
Okay.
Maybe looking to relocate and trying
Oh.
to figure out maybe some good areas. And I like the vibe. Got some friends out here. Got a good vegan scene. So
Yes, it does. It
Good
does.
place
It's-
to live, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It does. It's kind of, it's interesting. I always kind of describe it to people as kind of a more reasonably LA version of living because it's like like with LA's the
state
vegan
taxes.
LA's
Yeah.
the vegan
Oh, yeah.
mecca, but Vegas does very well. No state income taxes,
Yep.
things like that, and it's a 4-hour
4-hour
drive.
drive.
Yeah,
Go hang out.
to LA if you got
The
it.
cost of living is drastically different. than-
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Well, if you need any tips, let us know. Frank and I both endorse the Summerlin area.
Appreciate
That's
it.
where we live.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll throw the plug in too. You can get the book at austinariesbook.com. You can also find it on Amazon or austinariesbook.com. And
Okay.
follow me on my Twitter at Austin Aries. And I already told you about my Instagram.
Instagram, Austin Healy.
Healy Aries, yeah.
All right, very
Awesome,
good.
man.
Well, keep in touch, man. If you're back through, let us know. We'll go eat some vegan food.
Yeah, there's lots of good spots.
back
So
on the show.
we'll go have some next time.
Right on, brother.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks for
gentlemen.
coming in. Austin Aries has been our guest. Ana the Hurricane Julaton joins us in studio now, Frank. Hey, Ana. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, as always, nice to visit with you. We're going to talk about Ana's next fight coming up in Bellator. The date is announced, and it's got an unprecedented caveat with it that we're going to explain here momentarily. After Frank explains the Amazon banner, you know what to do. Go to phoneboothfighting.com, click through the Amazon banner. Frank, why in the world would I ever do that?
You're already taking most of my lines, man.
No. You do your wants and needs.
Yeah, by clicking through the Amazon banner on our website, then a small percentage of that purchase that you make for your wants and needs goes back to here at the show at no extra cost to you. It's one of the easiest ways to help us out.
You know what you could do? You could buy Austin Aries' book, Food Fight.
I'm just gonna
On
steal
Amazon.
yours.
Huh? No, you're not going to steal mine. It's made out to me. I'll know. You actually to me? I'll let you borrow it. It's fine. When are you writing a book, Ana?
Oh, wow, you read my mind. It's funny because on New Year's I got to hang out with my friend Donald Foyle. he works with NBA, retired NBA player and stuff like that. But he was kind of coaching me in terms of like what to look forward to after the fight game and stuff, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
So like I'm on this 100-day diary, audio diary, where I have to talk about everything that happens on a daily basis and just kind of wrap my mind up into being into this phase, moving on to the next phase. So by the time I'm on to the next phase, I'm done. You know what I mean? So it's interesting, and he's like giving me all these little cues of like how to make that into means of me branding myself. So
that's good you're doing that, because I think a lot of times, whether it be fighters, anybody that's in some sort of profession like this, it goes by so quickly, but there's so much that's going on while you're doing it. Yeah, you're going to remember the big achievements, the big wins, and who the opponents were and stuff like that, but a lot of the little small stories that are great stories, you kind of forget. I mean, I don't know how many times with you, Frank, we're talking and something will just occur. Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot about that time this happened or that happened, and that's actually some of the podcasts that I think people enjoy the most, is when you start telling those stories. So yeah, for sure. Good. Well, I'm glad you're doing that. Now, okay, so here's the story. If you don't know, quick background, Ana, after becoming a world champion boxer, transitioned to MMA. She's fighting over in Bellator now, and she's got her second Bellator fight coming up with Heather Hardy. Is she the Heat? Is she Heat? She's something about hot or heat, right? Isn't she the Heat? I think she's the Heat. Mikey will check it. Anna's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I think that's right. So she's had a fight over in Bellator as well. I've seen this. She was a pro boxer, right? She comes from a boxing background. Okay. So here's the story. You guys are going to have your Bellator fight's going to be February 16th at Bellator 194. That's the featured female bout of the evening at Mohegan Sun. Here's the twist. Then you guys have agreed that after that, at some point in the future, there's going to be a boxing match, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Tell me about how all that. Tell us how all that came about. Whose idea was it? Who pitched it?
Oh, interesting enough, it was my boxing promoter, Alan Tremblay, Hall of Famer. He was talking with Rich True about having me match up with Heather, since we had been trying to have a fight with Heather in boxing for such a long time. And so since this opportunity aroused, Alan was suggesting, hey, let the two girls, fight. We're supposed to fight an October card, which didn't happen, didn't materialize. And this is why we're having a fight right now. But Alan originally wanted us to fight in that, and sometime around now we would have been already venturing on into the boxing aspect of it. So, it's cool because Alan's been in the game for a long time. He knows Luda Bella, and they've been going back and forth along with Bellator and trying to make all of this happen. So, we're really excited.
Yeah, and then now as far as Heather, because I didn't know much about her prior to getting into MMA. Did you know her from the boxing world prior?
Yeah, she started to come up. I think. This is like after I already achieved a couple of boxing titles and stuff like that, and I saw she started to get into the circuit and stuff like that. But as she started to build up her record and all that, we tried to situate a fight, and possibly get the TV networks together and get the whole shebang, and it just never materialized. And so. In the October fight, I was calling her out. I was like, why you dunking? I was like, if there's going to be any fight that you're going to need to have, it'll be someone who's been in the game for a while too. To not have this matchup would be foolish. There's a connection there. People know about it, especially in the boxing community. Now that we're expanding over to the MMA side, I think it's just more of a future thing that people need to see, and it's something that women's MMA need altogether. Women combat sport, it's still very young. In boxing, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even have this problem. I can just go down to Argentina and fight at a main event in front of 40,000 people. You know what I mean? Versus like out here in the United States, it still needs to be built. And so I don't see anyone lighting a match and trying to get things going. And so I just called her out, and I'm like, okay, well, you got a following, you have 80,000 people off of you just showing off your butt in front of all these people.
That's how I built my fan base.
and so I'm like, what, if you call yourself the Heat, let's go at it. So
Frank, I think this is something, and we've talked about this recurring theme with Bellator, but now since you and Ana are both under the Bellator umbrella, that they're doing really well, which is capitalizing on opportunity where they see it, rather than look at it and go, okay, we've got two professional female boxers who transition to MMA, but let's don't do anything with that. It's MMA now, and it's only with us, and it's only under our tent. They're actually looking at an opportunity and going, you know what? Even if at some point in the future they're fighting, they're boxing, and that's not in our cage, it's still going to be in front of a new audience, and all they're going to be doing is saying Bellator, Bellator, Bellator over and over again. The fact that these two women fight over there, and we're building our fan base. It seems like whether they're doing that, whether they're doing, they did that hybrid card with Glory where they had kickboxing, and I just think they probably deserve some credit at this point for trying some things like that.
No, I think it's called cross marketing. I don't think it is, but that's what it's called. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why other promotions don't do that. I think they try to hold on to, like, okay, we're at the top of the hill, and there's a different mentality. And I think that's why they always have that expression. There's only one direction to go when you're at the top, and that's down. And I think that, the Bellator is being much more innovative, realizing that, well, if guys fight in other promotions, bottom line is, as long as our fighters are popular, that's what's going to sell tickets. People want to see fighters that they can follow behind and have popularity. And if you make matchups that are intriguing, that increases popularity. And I think they also realize that, like, well, if we only allow them to fight in this one avenue under our banner, it's limiting. Whereas, fighters, you only have so many fights a night and so many different aspects of it, being in the Bellator inside the cage. This is an opportunity now that they can cross-market. You now can have it to where fans of boxing that might not be interested in MMA would have a reason to convert over and watch an Ana and a Heather Hardy type fight, and then they're going to fight again in boxing. And then when they even have that boxing match, say they didn't even tune in, there's still going to be history that there's no way that you're not going to want to review, well, what happened in their MMA fight. Mm-hmm. And now you're bringing in new eyes and new individuals to the sport.
How long did you box? How long was your boxing career before you transitioned to MMA?
I started training in boxing in 2003. Turned pro 2007, and here I am now. Yeah, it's been a while.
And then how long has it been now in MMA?
I turned professional in, I think, 2014.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple of years. How do you compare where you're at now in your second discipline, your MMA career, compared to maybe at that point in boxing? What are some of the lessons you feel like you've learned at this point?
Man, it's really tough, a lot of it you have to really pick and choose what's effective and what's not effective. Mm-hmm. And what really helps is just being able to train with, Angela and especially with Frank, with all of his experiences and just with his dialogue alone, just him simplifying things. Like, I can just get things just like that. And I'm like, man, I wish I had someone just tell me that right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I remember when I was an amateur and Angelo brought me over to Freddie Roach, and we started learning his systemized way of doing boxing. It was simplified, mm-hmm. and it just took a lot of repetitions, but there was a common goal at hand. And so with this, with Frank, just being able to just kind of see my style and just kind of understand my background a little bit, and with his amazing experience in just the grappling world altogether, like, he can just already know, like, masterfully, like, this is what you need, this is what you don't need, work on this and work you don't. And I'm like, oh, thanks, it just makes my job a lot more easier. And so in terms of my confidence as a fighter, it gets me fired up. So, I think at this point, for someone like me, because I can't go into an amateur program coming from a boxing background,
right?
This is the route that I had to take in order for me to learn my style. I think a lot of it is just finding the right people, and I'm just real fortunate to have this dynamic happening.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch when you were boxing? Were you watching MMA the whole time with one eye on it, or is that something that
a little bit?
Yeah,
a little bit. I still was cross training with martial arts and boxing at the time, and Angela at the karate school would pop up some fights like Lyoto Machida and stuff when we watched the karate style.
Yeah,
but I didn't really understand the grappling aspect of it. It's so weird because I'm from Northern California and it's very popular out there, grappling. Mm-hmm. Versus, like, I never, like, walked into that world, I wasn't around people who were just into it. And I'm like, how can this not happen,
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Frank, Ana and I are going to be taking a road trip tomorrow. I don't even know if Ana knows about this or not, but yeah, we're getting in a car and we're driving to L.A.
I might have influenced it a little bit.
Yes. We're all going to Bellator. It's going to be a big family affair.
Road trip. You guys are sharing a room now.
That's the next part I was getting to. I didn't even know if Ana knew about that. So,
you didn't know, did you?
No.
They only got one. There's 2 rooms. Me and Mrs. Mir in one.
Yeah.
I guess we do guys and girls. If you want, you and Jen could be in. But
that look of disappointment you just saw on her face has been the story of my life. Whenever some young ladies found out about similar accommodations. But you know what? I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised though, Ana, because Frank, who has shared a hotel room with me, knows how neat and considerate I am as a roommate.
Super considerate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maintain a very orderly environment.
He makes sure that you don't need to use the restroom before he goes in there and stuff. Okay, I'm about to take a shower. Yeah.
I do things
Hold on now. Did you pack earplugs?
I mean, not yet, but I can.
Like, in fact, I was even thinking, because both the rooms are under my name. I'm like, I'll have them side by side. I'm like, fuck, Angelo's in one of the rooms. Nope, we're going to get some separation. Because Mr. Reyes can snore.
Oh, okay.
To the point where when we were in Australia, me and James had an intervention with him.
Oh, wow. I got to tell you.
She's laughing, I'm like, hey, buddy, I care about you, man. You're a good dude. You know what I mean? I like Joseph, Ana. Like, that's not healthy, man. This is called sleep deprivation. It's going to give you a heart attack. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll look forward to that. I got to say, I actually thought you were going a different route with that. I thought you were telling me that you and Mrs. Mir were planning to do some hardcore loving, so I better put some earplugs in because it was going to be
no, that'll happen too. Because now we don't
through the wall.
Because
look,
when we're home, Ronan, still sleeps with us, right? My 8-year-old, and he's just, all the kids have slept in our bed, but Cage probably left at about 7 or 8. Bella stopped at about 5. In fact, actually, Bella, I thought, left too early. I had come home from Canada. I was out there every weekend for 2 months straight. And it was her first day of school for first grade. And her mom, we've always had a bedroom for all the kids, but they don't ever use them. They just sleep in our room. But I've always had it to where they have their own room, that if they want their alone time, they can leave the room. But parents' bedroom is never off limits. Anytime you want to be with me, please be with me. And so when Bella went in there, I actually cried. I was upset. Yeah. I cried that night. Jennifer had to go get Bella and bring her back. And, Dad, I know you're ready. Your father's not.
Yeah.
But that saying said, Ronan now has been the longest now staying in the bed. He's the baby of the family. So anytime me and Mrs. Mir have an opportunity that we don't have an 8-year-old sleeping between us. Yeah, try to take advantage of it.
That makes sense. That's how Jennifer and I are with the dogs. We go on the road. It's because Nala's about the size of Ronan. And we get her on the bed, and that's our pit. So I feel you. I understand what you're talking about there. All right. So now, what about the car trip itself, Ana? What should I? Are you good on the car trips? Are we gonna? You good? Okay. Let's see. What kind of music do you like to listen to?
Oh, I'm easy.
Good. Okay. Because
She's not a California girl. You can ask Jennifer. They listen to all that same kind of old school rap
that's
shit.
True.
Oh no. Well, see, I don't know any of the old school rappers.
Oh.
E40.
Really?
No, I don't know. All I know here's a lot of all I know
Bay
about
Area, right? That's what you guys call it, more like the Bay Area rap scene.
Yeah.
What I know about rap is that it used to be. I'm going to paint with a broad brush. It used to be much more sort of politically and socioeconomically motivated, which I preferred. Then at some point, the focus became on seeing how many words rhyme with club. That was a big thing. And then the other thing I know about it is that there are a large proportion of rappers who have the word Lil in front of their name. There's a lot of that. Do you fans of any of the Lils?
Let's see, Lil Wayne.
That's one, yeah.
Yeah.
I've often thought that I would like to put on a music fest, and I would call it Lil Fest, and I would just book Lils. And it's kind of fun to play the game of, okay, who headlines. I think by far Lil Wayne is like the biggest one. Probably. But then there's some guys that are going to be over on my second stage going on about noon, guys you haven't heard of.
Yeah, that plenty of cough syrup.
Okay, a lot of that. Yeah.
Codeine cough syrup.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. Nothing else I should know about our road trip plans?
No.
Okay. Sounds pretty.
What kind of,
sounds
are you guys
pretty
going
easy.
to bring any kind of food?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right. Because we're going to see you, me, and Angelo is the plan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's going to be interesting.
He busts my balls about how I got him because I was like,
Oh,
hey,
you want to role play? Why don't we show Ana what
we've
you
already
did?
done this on air, so our fans already know about it.
That's
But
okay.
How I got Richard was
No, let's just go reenact. Those watching on our Phone Booth Fighting YouTube channel will enjoy seeing it a second time, and just know that Angelo's off camera, so it's even better this time. All right, let's do it. Go ahead. How'd you
Oh,
do?
hey man! So on the 20th that weekend, like do you have any plans?
Well, yeah, it's that's going to be the Bellator out at the Forum in
Oh,
LA.
yeah.
I was going to come out there. Are you
Oh,
going?
See, actually, no, we didn't even do that because I asked you, are you going to go to Bellator? Like, hey, I'm going to go to Bellator.
Oh, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
why don't you come out there? We could do like a show out there. Like you go out there.
Oh, that'd be a perfect
do you
time
need to
to
get a press
tape.
conference?
Yeah, I'll have a media
If
credential.
not, I'll get you like a ticket and stuff. Like
No, I'll be good.
So
I'll have
are
a
you going to
media
fly up or
credential.
drive?
I mean, it's a quick drive. I'll probably just drive. That'll be
Okay,
easy.
so you're already driving down there. Like, what if you brought Angelo with you?
See what he did? Yeah, that's how he did it. He got me to commit to all the things he was like a lawyer. He was like a ace defense attorney who was establishing all the predicate to get me.
You were here and you said this, and in this situation you would always do this. So then on the night, no,
That's right.
That's
That's
awesome.
Right. That's okay though, because Angelo and I are big buddies, aren't we, Angelo? We have a good time together. All right. So that's going to be tomorrow. We're going to roll up to L.A. The fight is, of course, Saturday night at the Forum. That's going to be Chael Sonnen taking on Rampage Jackson, the first fight in the heavyweight tournament that Frank is also in with Fedor. That's coming up in April. That's been official now. April 20 Fedor fight?
8th, right?
Oh, boy. I'd like to think that right at this exact moment, Fedor and one of his friends are doing this.
No, in Fedor probably.
Yeah. I'm scrolling to April. Let's see who gets to it first. I'm thinking the 28th, 27th, 28th.
28 sounds just right.
28th. Hold on.
And
I'm
Angelo's
almost,
nodding, so I'm going to go with that.
hold on. I'm almost there. 28th. Saturday the 28th.
Yeah.
Yep, in Chicago. But this Saturday night is going to be Chael and Rampage, and then the main event is Rory McDonald is going to be challenging Douglas Lima for the welterweight belt, and then of course Ana's fight coming up February 16th at Mohegan Sun, and UFC is Saturday night as well. That's the double main event. In fact, do you know what? I should have mentioned this earlier. I actually have a little phone conversation I had with Volkan Oezdemir yesterday. So let's do that. We'll drop that into the podcast right about now and come back on the other side.
Cool stuff.
Volkan Oezdemir joining me on the line right now. He takes on Daniel Cormier for the UFC light heavyweight title this Saturday night at UFC 220. Volkan, good to talk to you. Happy to have you on. And first, I got to ask you about this meteoric rise to title contention. I mean, you may have had the fastest ever ascension to a title shot in the UFC, and you left some knockouts in your wake to do it. So first I want to ask you about that. I'm sure you had a lot of confidence in your ability, but after getting that initial short notice fight against Ovent St. Preux, did it surprise you even that you moved to this spot so quickly, basically just within about a year's time?
So yes and no, because it was a surprise how fast it happened, and I think also there was some luck also with it, since with all the John Jones story. But then also it's all about what I've been doing, who I was fighting, and all the opportunity they offered me that I grabbed, because I could have said, like, wait, or no, I'm not ready, I want to take time off. And every time I was looking for the next challenge, and after the OSP fight, I fought like a really strong up-and-coming fighter, undefeated for 5 years, 8 fights, 8 win in a row. And then the same night of the fight, I was already in negotiation to fight Jimmy Manua 6 weeks later. So I think it's all about the work I've done and how well I did it. So it's a mix of opportunity and hard work.
Now, you know, the conventional thinking here is that Daniel Cormier is going to try to wrestle with you, and you're going to try to stand and strike with him with your kickboxing background. But you showed really good takedown defense against Ovince St. Preux, and that's the only fight in the UFC anyway where we've been able to watch you work longer than about 45 seconds. That fight went the distance. So I did notice that. Do you feel like maybe your takedown defense and wrestling ability might be getting a little bit overlooked here because of your knockout reputation?
I mean, people haven't seen much from me because the only thing that they saw is 70 seconds of fighting all together for my last two fights, plus the OSP fight, and which was basically a stand-up game. And I wasn't really, you know, in the best shape of my life. So now it's totally different. You know, I had time to build myself. I'm surrounded by a more professional team, and we're just going to see a new version of myself.
You mentioned the physical circumstances coming into that OSP fight, and of course, not only did you take it on short notice, you were in training for a heavyweight fight, so there was some last-minute weight cutting that had to be done, and as you pointed out, by the third round, obviously it was starting to wear you down a little bit. Now, Cormier, especially this being a 5-round fight, is probably going to want to try to test that cardio again going into the later rounds, but I would assume that a lot of what we saw that you just addressed in that OSP fight had to do with the short notice and lack of ability to prepare. You don't see any kind of concern like that this time around, do you?
No, I'm not entering the fight with any concern, especially not my cardio, because I know I put the work in. But then also, you know, the cardio is all about whatever you put into the fight. So if you put a lot of energy, a lot of heart, and a lot of you know, offensive stuff, or like a non-stop action, of course you're gonna have less cardio than somebody who's doing, you know, one jab every 10 seconds. So it's all about the way you're fighting. So some people are really, you know, like, they pick up their shot, the preservative, you know, they don't do too much, you know, and they want to fight on decision. And people like me, we just, you know, give everything, and we want to, you know, go for the knockout. So that's just two different styles of fighting. So of course, people could say, oh, you have less cardio than somebody else, but no, that's exactly not the point. It's just that I'm doing way more. You know, if you look at the stats, I think in the division, nobody is a strike. I have a higher number in the number of strikes, you know, landed. So,
right.
So that's it. You know, it's all about whatever you put in during the fight.
I want to ask you about the camp that you're training with, because you got a great group of guys around you. Essentially, many of the former Black Zillions there in Florida. You've relocated to Florida to train, but Luke Rockhold is there now. Now, he is a former member of AKA Daniel Cormier's camp, and if I'm understanding correctly from what I've seen him say on the Embedded series, he's kind of remaining neutral. He's kind of staying out of that, maybe not telling you too many secrets about Cormier. Is that his position, or has he kind of been able to help you with this camp?
No, everybody's professional here, so I'm not asking him any advice. I'm not asking him any insight, and of course he's not giving me anything, because first of all, he's friend with Cormier, and then he's also my teammate now. And since he's staying at my gym, so of course it's a little bit of an awkward situation for him, because he's stuck in the middle, and I don't think he asked for anything.
So how about that? I just whipped out a little quick phone conversation with Volkan Oezdemir and dropped it into the podcast. You didn't see that coming.
Did not see it
That's
coming.
right. My phone cut out right there at the end, if you're wondering why it ended kind of abruptly. You think he's got any shot to defeat Daniel Cormier?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you think that Cormier is susceptible to his punch? Cormier has only been finished one time.
Yeah.
That was John Jones. Oezdemir has fought 3 times in the UFC. 2 of them have been 25-second and 40-second first-round knockouts. The only distance fight he had was with Ovince St. Preux, which he won 29-28. I think it was a split, if I'm not mistaken. It was definitely 29-28. But I think that what's going to be interesting is if Cormier can grind him and take him into the late rounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's Cormier's game plan the whole time.
Yeah.
I think especially Cormier has felt now, you know, he got his lights put out pretty badly in the last fight. So I think he's, you know, there's one thing knowing what it feels like to get hit like that, but I'm always interested to see how people return from it. Are you able to come back fearless? You know, a lot of guys, they get knocked out and that's it for their career. Like once they feel that, it's like, well, you felt the punch, but when you have that moment where you're like, holy shit, that's what that feels like. Now it could kind of edge. It either edges your confidence, or it's like, all right, okay, I experienced that. Now I know why I slip, why I move, and what I want to avoid.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think we're going to end up seeing Cormier do what Cormier does, which is you know, grind him out and take him late.
You don't think there's a little steam taken under Cormier a little bit?
You know why I don't? Because if your name is not John Jones, you've had no effect on him.
Yeah, but I wonder about the psyche of Cormier, who I think is the best fighter in the world other than John Jones at 205. But, you know, Cormier is so competitive and wants to be the best, but he has to know in the back of his mind now that no matter what he does from this point out in his career, no one, I mean, there are always going to be some, but the majority of the people are always going to think of him as second best.
Yeah, I think maybe that would matter.
Does that kill him? Like, does that make it to where you just kind of
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something you can consider. I think maybe that could be more potent if John were still in good standing in the UFC somehow. I think the fact that what happened, not because Cormier doesn't seem to be.
That's only going to help people to try to vindicate Cormier.
Yeah.
But Cormier is a warrior. He's an athlete.
Yeah.
He doesn't care that everybody thinks that John Jones has been stripped of the title. Like, he might use those things.
Yeah.
But in a room by himself, he knows that if you locked me and John in a room, John's walking out of the room and I'm not.
I think he's actually I think he's being, what I've seen leading up to the fight, I think he's actually being kind of candid about that. I don't think he's saying, you know, hey, he tested dirty, you know, he's a dirty fighter or anything like that. I think he's actually saying, look, for better or for worse, I ended up the champ. I actually heard him say this week on the Countdown episode, he said, look, I know I lost that fight. Yeah, it's been turned over to a no contest, but I lost it. I got to, you know, I think he said something like get rid of the stench of what happened and reestablish my spot as champion. So,
okay.
I mean,
maybe this. I mean, he has to be mentally strong. I'm assuming, but I'm just wondering about that situation to where it's almost worse that John is out of the picture because he can't get back after him. You know what I mean? Like, I think the person most hurt by the suspension would be Daniel.
Yeah,
because there's no chance now if John were to get suspended for the next 4 years, let's say, you know, there's no redemption.
Yeah, I just think that anytime Cormier has not been faced with John Jones, he looks he has been unbeatable. No. It's not just that he looks unbeatable, but I mean, you know, I think this is exactly the right fight at the right time for him to reclaim his position and be right back to where he is. And I've also seen over his career, and you know, we were talking to Chael about it a couple of weeks ago when we had him on. The blueprint of Cormier has been so much the same his whole career. I mean, it's being this incredibly dominant wrestler, but also a guy who has surprisingly good boxing, and he just rides that to victory, and he just grinds you out and wins. I mean, it's a guy who tapped out Anthony Rumble Johnson, you know, right before he got to John. And Oezdemir was one of Rumble's sparring partners. So I don't know. I mean, the guy hits hard. He obviously knocks people out, but I've never seen Cormier right up until John Jones even look like he was in trouble. Yeah, you know, and he's fought other big hitters before.
I don't think he's even lost around anybody.
I don't think he had either. I will make this prediction about the finish of Ana's fight with Heather Hardy, because I don't even know if you know this, Frank. I normally play this stuff very close to the vest. But, you know, of course, everybody's talking about it's a matchup of strikers and all that kind of stuff. The real X factor here could be the grappling. Ana is one of the few people, and now that I think about it, maybe one of the only pro fighters that I have ever showed my super secretive jiu-jitsu submission.
Yeah, you haven't even showed it to me yet.
I haven't even. You don't even know what it is. You know what I'm talking about, Ana. You know what I'm talking about.
I remember that.
Yeah, good. Well, you're laughing when you say that, so I don't. I take it very serious because I think this could be your ticket to victory here. Heather Hardy will not see this coming. As I often say, I can catch everybody with it one time. Now, second time they're on to you. Okay, so you gotta use it at just the right time. Okay. But I'm telling you, I can hear Mauro Ranallo or Mike Goldberg or whoever's going to be calling it in my ear now, saying she did not see that coming. And yeah. So, all right. Say no. Don't even say anything. I don't want to reveal too much about it. Like I said, I haven't even shown it to Frank, so we keep that very very secretive. All right. I'll show everybody what it is after we get off the air. But we got to make Angelo turn off his camera because I'm like Steven Seagal when I show moves. Have you ever been around Steven Seagal when he's done that? When he does the I'm going to show you. Oh, turn off the cameras. Everybody, turn off the cameras. I have to show a demonstration. I actually saw him do that one time. I think he was going to show Anderson Silva how to defeat someone or something, and it was like, everyone turn off the cameras. I'm going to demonstrate my technique. All right. I'll do it. I just won't speak in the creepy whisper voice. All right. How does everybody follow you on social media, Ana?
Just plug in my name, AnaJulaton. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I'll be right there.
That's right. Give her a follow. You going to be posting stuff from our fun road trip?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. All right.
Catch all the candid stuff.
On the road hijinks. What about you, Frank? We're going to be posting some of your stuff as well. You can follow Frank at the Frank Mir on Twitter and Instagram. Tell them how to follow the show.
Phone Booth Fighting. You can follow us at Phone Booth Fighting on Facebook and Instagram, and Phone Booth Fight on Snapchat and Twitter.
It's going to be a good weekend to do it because we're going to be on the road, all of us together, posting up the stuff.
We'll work the Snapchat a little bit this weekend?
We'll work the Snapchat. Let's work the Snapchat.
That's where we're pretty weak at, I think.
Yeah. We probably don't Snapchat as much as we should. We'll Snapchat some. Maybe we'll Snapchat from Doomies. Maybe we'll Snapchat a couple of. You want to make a night trip over there? Maybe tomorrow night. I know they're staying open until like 4 a.m. now.
Oh, are they now?
Yeah.
Oh, we're in.
Yeah. Are you? You're in training, right?
I am in training.
It's a plant-based sandwich. You're good.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. Can you do with a vegan burger? Is that okay for right now?
Oh no, I can eat. I could probably eat a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This isn't going to be a tough weight cut or anything. Good. Okay.
No.
Okay. Very good.
You guys fighting at 125?
Yeah. 126 with the 1 pound allowance. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
What are you walking at now?
About 135.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. You're in on Doomies then.
We're good. We're good.
Car trip over to Doomies.
Down.
Yeah. Right. If you're in the L.A. area and you happen to find yourself around Doomies, look for us Friday night. Probably is when we'll stop in there and tear up some Big Macs and animal style fries.
Mrs. Mayor's a fan too. We're good.
That's right. PhoneBoothFighting.com, remember, is the website. You want to do us a favor, me and Frank? Let me tell you what you can do. Tell a friend. Tell a friend about this podcast and ask them to subscribe and check it out. Look it up in iTunes and click on those 5 stars. It's so helpful to us. And if you have a moment, write us a favorable line or two. As you know, Frank and I like to read those positive reviews on the air on our Phone Booth Fighting iTunes page. We're also on Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Google Play, or wherever podcasts are found, including PhoneBoothFighting.com itself. All right, guys. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks to Austin Aries for joining us earlier. That was great stuff. Volkan Oezdemir for talking to me on the phone yesterday, and Ana the Hurricane Julaton for being with us as well. For Frank Mir, I'm Richard Hunter, and we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fighting.